All right, you guys, today we are looking at the mouth. First thing we need to know again, we're always talking about proportions. The mouth is wider than the nose. If you draw your mouth too narrow, it tends to look kind of like an anime character, big eyes, tiny mouth. So let's make sure that we have our mouth wider than the nose, which means we have to start with some kind of nose shape for our notes. So here's my notes. We're doing the mouth today. I'm going to start with just basically this bottom shape of the nose. I'm not here to shade in a nose for forever with you. I just want you guys to make sure your proportions are right. So bottom shape of the nose, kind of those nostril flaps that we've talked about. Good enough. Okay, now I know how wide my nose is and where to work from there. My lips have to be wider than that. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure I get that wide enough. If I had the eyes in the picture, I would be measuring from the bottom of the nose to the bottom of the mouth to piece in, sorry, let me back up a step. We use the eye as our measurement. So if we don't have eyes up here, we've measured the eye, and from the bottom of the nose to the bottom of the mouth would be about an eye. So that also helps me. Next thing I like to look at with my students is where the lips come together. This is called the lip line. This is important. It defines if they're smiling, frowning, straight-faced, at an angle, any of that. So going ahead and just kind of sketching in the shape of her. She's smiling a little bit, so I'm going to do more of a U shape, kind of. Next, I like to shape in the upper lip. Upper lips can be two different ways. Take a look down here for a second and do a little side note. If you want someone's lips to look like, I don't know, Angelina Jolie, very full and very pouty, we do something like this shape for the upper lip. If you want them to look thinner, like they've got kind of thin lips, instead of this V shape, we do something that's more of kind of a U shape right there. So for that part at the very top center of the lips, these lips look thinner than those lips. These look like they're pouty lips. This also tends to be more masculine. We think of women as having full lips and men lips as being thinner. So keep that in mind as you're studying your pair of lips when you're drawing. Looking at her, she's got a bit of a V shape up here. Of course, it's centered under the button of the nose, so kind of a soft V shape. And then I'm going to take that out to almost, but not quite, the corner of the mouth. The upper lip tends to be slightly smaller than the lower lip, which means it's also a little bit less wide. So that's my upper lip sketched in. For the lower lip, again, let's go back to my little side note down here. To make really full looking lips, you would do an upside down U there. To flatten those lips, you would just do a really soft curve. So keep that in mind again for the difference. Do you see how she's almost got a flat shape down here for her lower lip? And her lower lip is thicker than her upper lip. So let me bring it down a little further. As I bring it up here, I'm going to connect a little bit further than I did on the upper lip. Now, always just pay attention to the picture that you're drawing. Don't just do what I said. I'm just trying to show you the things to look for as you draw. Now, if you have a nice close-up on a mouth and you're really trying to get detailed, you would start paying attention to the texture that we see here. There's little lines on the lip. Ever notice that when you get your lips chapped? It's kind of, I don't know, scaly. Pretend there's a vanishing point right here in the middle of the mouth. And we're going to have very lightly, you're going to draw some texture lines, and they curve. As they move from this to the side, they curve a little bit. This just kind of gives us that indication that the lips are not perfectly flat or smooth. As they work from this point over, I'm curving the other way. Just do it lightly. Just give it a try in your notes. If this does not work for you, never use it again. I don't care. On the upper lip, same thing. They're curving kind of up and away, and the opposite direction. Next step on lips. The upper lip is always darker than the lower lip, almost without exception. That's because the upper lip tucks into the face. If I could draw in profile here, let's say this is the nose. Here's the mouth. All right, here's my mouth, lips. This is in shadow. Light's coming down and it can't hit it. This lip is pushing out, so the light can hit it right there. So the lower lip is lighter than the upper lip. I'm going to go ahead. I like to switch pencils for this stuff. I'm going to start shading. It's definitely darker down near the lip line. In fact, I'm going to start darkening in the lip line. Shade that a little bit. And soften it. with your blending stick. Moving down to the lower lip, look for the shiny spot. If the model is wearing lipstick, she's going to have a bright white spot like right there. So I'm going to bring my shading from here, and it's going to get lighter and then slightly darker again near the edge on her lips. And again, I'm going to take my blending stick and soften that and try to avoid some of the shiny spots. You can get very fancy with your shiny spots on someone's lip gloss. I'm going to go back and darken this a little bit more. It's pretty important that that looks black where the lips come together. That's the fifth hole on the face. Next thing, I need you guys to finish an entire picture. So a big full pair of lips, they leave a cast shadow on her face. I'm going to take my ebony pencil and shade that in. If your picture that you work from on the handout includes the chin, you need to work all the way to the chin with your shading, but I'm not going to do that right now, I don't have time. Giving her a cast shadow on her face that blends out smoothly. This makes the lips look even more three-dimensional. Which means we also need to look at the upper lip. The upper lip very often has a wave here, right? It also has a crease from the nose to the mouth. For some reason, somebody somewhere along the line decided that that was unattractive and they airbrush it out on most models. You will find that they don't have the wave or their smile lines. If you see them in the picture, please draw them. If you don't, it's okay. You don't need to draw something you don't see. But that's something to keep an eye out for. I'm going to kind of pretend here just because I'd like you guys to think about it. You'll also notice on the upper lip, there's often a little bit of reflected light right through here. So as I get close to the lips, I leave a little bit of a white area. And of course, don't forget that shadow under the nose. It's always casting a shadow on the face. And with that, I'm going to use my blending stick to smooth things out, leaving that little white glow above the upper lip. Last thing I want you to notice, I did not put a heavy black outline around my lips. Nothing makes them look more unrealistic than putting a big dark line all the way around them. So pay attention to that. Draw lightly. It's your shading that defines where the lips are. Sometimes I go back in, add a little more work here at the corners of the mouth where there's shadows happening, where the lips fold together. And that's about it for this particular lesson. Get the handout from the front of the classroom when you're ready. You should have drawn this in your sketchbook. Go ahead and show it to me.